Hello and welcome to Lesson 9 of Computer Systems for National 5 Computing Science. Last time we were looking at computer structure, we did memory and buses. This time we're looking at the need for interpreters and compilers, and we'll look at which one's best for which situation. Here's the presentation, here's what you're learning. Now, as I've said before, everything in a computer system is binary, ones and zeros. But how come you can write Python code and the computer understands it? How's that possible? Well, there's this thing in a computer system that you can use called a translator. This is a piece of software that can convert high-level code, such as this Python here. We've got a Python program here, highly accurate, and the translation software will convert this into binary. Now, this is just a random spam of ones and zeros. I don't know if this actually converts to this, most likely not. But this is the idea. You get the code, the high-level code that looks kind of like English with some commands, and the translation software will convert this into binary that the computer understands. There are two types of translation software. We've got one called interpreter and another called compiler. So these are the two types, but what do they do? Let's start with the interpreter. It's probably the one you've experienced already. If you've written any programs, you may have interpreted these. So what the interpreter does is it takes one line of your code and it converts it into binary and tells the computer to execute that line of code. And then it goes to the next line of code and it converts it into binary and it executes it, and so on and so forth until it's all executed and complete. So it does one line at a time. While this is happening, there is a temporary copy of the program in RAM, and the interpreter is in RAM as well at the same time. And it takes up a lot of processing time, and it takes up a lot of RAM, right? So this is quite a processor and RAM intensive process. Hopefully that makes sense. And it's relatively slow as well. So you might be thinking, what is the point? Why wouldn't I just use the other one, which sounds way faster and more efficient? Well, the main benefit of an interpreter is that if the interpreter approaches a line of code that has an error, it can identify that error. And because it's identified it on a specific line, it can tell you which line it was. So it can highlight bugs, allow you to highlight bugs, to identify them and fix them while the program is in your RAM, while you've got it open right in front of you. So this is very good to use during the development process because these errors, they'll be easily spotted and you can fix them there and then. So that's the interpreter done. On the other hand, we have a compiler. So you might be thinking, well, interpreter's the best because it helps me spot errors. But let's take a look at what compilers do. First of all, they will translate the entire program in one go. Like not in one go, but it will do all in a go and it won't execute any of that code. It just translates it. Once it's finished translating the code, it creates a separate file, right? So the translator software is gone, but you're left with the translated executable code, the binary code, sometimes called the object code. Now, the translation process, as it says here, it'll take some time, but you're left with some binary code that, because it's in the computer's native language, it's going to run extremely quickly, incredibly quickly, and you don't need the translation software anymore. You don't need to spend time translating the code anymore. So it's going to be way faster and way more efficient. But as with all things, there are benefits and drawbacks. If the program does have any errors, it probably just won't compile at all. And you'll be left thinking, what's wrong? Where's the error? If it does compile, it may crash. Get it? Crash. And it won't give you an explanation. So why would you ever use a compiler? Well, if you've already tested it using the interpreter, you might be certain that there are no bugs, no errors, and it will never crash. Then you would use the compiler to create the object code, the executable, to ship the finished product. When it comes to past paper questions, this is the sort of thing that's come up. When implementing a program, describe one advantage of using an interpreter and one advantage of using a compiler to translate the code into binary. Well, what do you think? I've just told you the answers. Do you remember them? Let's recap it in the next video. So there you have it. I hope you've learned all of this. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves whilst doing so. Right, I'll see you in the next one.